Welcome back to Spaces and Shadows. You are listening to episode 3 of my 911 Lone Star fanfiction titled Serotonin. Headphones are recommended. This audio feature mature LGBTQ plus themes, sexual references, and sound effects that may be unsettling for certain listeners. Discretion is advised. The text may be found in my archive of our own profile. Link is in the description.
Previously on 911 Lone Star by Spaces and Shadows.
911, what's your emergency?
My fiancé is being shot. We're at Greenview Resorts by Lake Bastrop. Please hurry. He's losing a lot of blood.
Hey, baby, look at me. You gotta stay awake. Seriously, Dad, I'm fine. It's Carlos we have to worry about. I want you to be okay, just so that I can be okay too. I need you, Carlos. I don't know what to say to Mr. and Mrs. Reyes. I feel responsible for what happened to Carlos.
The bullet went straight through and missed his vital organs.
Damn it, TK. You could have been the one who got shot. I don't care. But I care, TK. I care. I just love you too much, Carlos. Is it wrong for me to love you too much?
Oh shit. I didn't know his dad didn't make it.
So that means I killed his father. Even though Donnie was on his day off and Carlos was on medical leave, it didn't stop them from making their way back to the station to share their findings with the captain. As they walked through the busier than usual office, their colleagues didn't notice their arrival as they were all busy working. They stopped in their tracks when they noticed Gabriel speaking to Captain Nelson in the captain's office. "Hang on. That's my dad," Carlos said, shooting an arm across Donnie's chest to stop him in his tracks.
Your dad is a Texas Ranger? How much more cooler can this get?
Donnie was gawking. Through the windows of the captain's office, they saw Gabriel and the captain shake hands before Gabriel stepped out. Carlos went forward and caught up with Gabriel as Donnie stood close by and observed their interaction. "Dad," Carlos said, prompting Gabriel to turn around. "Carlitos, what are you doing here? You're supposed to be recovering at home," Gabriel said with a face of disapproval. Dad, this is my colleague, Officer Miller. We found some things about the shooting and I think it will help with the investigation," Carlos said. Gabriel pulled Carlos away from the captain's office to a quieter corner for a more private conversation. "What did you find?" Gabriel lowered his voice. "Jonathan Raves, the suspect got away on the day of my operation. He was the one behind the shooting," Carlos said, matching Gabriel's tone of voice. Gabriel frowned. He pulled out his phone and played a video to Carlos. "This was captured by a street camera outside of the resort. The suspect pulled up in a stolen Honda Civic with a sniper rifle. Does this man look familiar to you?" That's..." Carlos said, squinting his eyes as his fingers pinched the screen to zoom the frame into the person in question. That's Jonathan. That's him. Dad, we gotta get him. We gotta tell the captain," Carlos said as he raised his voice. Son, quiet," Gabriel said, putting a hand on Carlos's shoulder, and they both lowered their heads. "The APD isn't sharing information, and they don't want us involved in the case. I'll do what I can to take him down, but you gotta tell me, why is this man trying to kill you?" Gabriel whispered. That night during the raid, his father fired a bullet at one of us. I had no choice, I had to disable him," Carlos whispered. He looked up into Gabriel's face with teary eyes and sighed. "I made a mistake. The doctors couldn't save him. Dad, I killed his father." Hey, This isn't your fault. You did your job, and you did what you had to, Gabriel said, putting a hand behind Carlos's neck. Carlos didn't want to seem weak in front of his dad, so he kept his tears from falling. You probably saved your colleagues from further danger, but right now, I need you to leave this to me, Gabriel said. But what do? I want to help, Carlos said in retaliation. This is the second time I've almost lost my son, and I'm not planning to let it happen for the third time, Gabriel said, recalling the time when Carlos was trapped with TK in his burning townhouse. Go home and lock your doors, Carlitos. That's an order, Gabriel said, pointing a finger at Carlos. Focus on your recovery, or I'll tell your fiancé to make sure of that, Gabriel said with a stern face and made his way out of the office. You thinking what I'm thinking? Carlos said as he walked towards Donnie.
Hell yeah! Actually no. I couldn't really hear what you guys were talking about, man.
Donnie said. We're gonna have to do this on our own, Carlos said. It was 10 p.m. into the night. Carlos made his way home after discussing the case with Donnie over dinner.
Level 9.
The elevator doors opened and Carlos took slow steps towards the front door of the loft, rehearsing what he should say to TK when he walks through those doors. Just stick to heartfelt and apologize. Hope you'll forgive me, Carlos thought to himself as he fiddled with the keys to unlock the door. TK? Carlos called out as he shut the door behind him and walked into the living room. Babe, you home? TK? Carlos slid open the bedroom door to reveal an empty bed. He was disappointed and heartbroken that TK hasn't returned home.
Hey, it's TK. I'm probably saving lives right now, but just busy loving Carlos. Leave a message and I'll call you back soon.
He gave TK several calls and text messages, but it went unanswered. Carlos changed into his sleepwear and laid alone in bed, staring at the ceiling. His head clouded with thoughts, jumping back and forth between the case he's been working on and how he messed up with TK. What if Jonathan tries to kill me again? What if he tries to kill TK? What if TK isn't coming home anymore? What if something happened to him? Carlos turned to his side to check the time on his phone. 11:21 p.m. No notifications of a text or a missed call. Carlos focused his eyes at the wallpaper on his phone, a picture of him and TK together at the park. Carlos felt depressed, thinking that he had lost everything. He screwed up the case, put TK and himself in danger, and now, the only thing that keeps him going isn't coming back home. Tears started rolling down his face as he repeatedly wished for TK to come home, fighting the urge to go out for a drive and search for him. Carlos heard the front door open, with a familiar voice calling out to him. Carlos quickly positioned himself to the side of the bed and pretended to sleep, as the footsteps came closer and the bedroom door opened. you asleep? TK whispered as he crawled onto the bed to get himself closer to Carlos, who was turned to the other side. TK began running his fingers through Carlos's hair and noticed the lit screen on Carlos's phone on the bedside table. Baby, I know you're awake. Your phone screen is lit up. Can we talk? TK whispered as he slid his hand down to Carlos's wet face. Oh no, baby, you've been crying? TK felt an immense sense of guilt and tried to shake Carlos's arm to nudge him to talk. Baby, please, talk to me. Carlos turned over to reveal his wet face. I thought you weren't gonna come home tonight. Baby, no, baby. I went to meet my sponsor. I was upset, but I shouldn't have left. Baby, I'm sorry I didn't think about how you feel. Being left alone after what you've been through. TK rested his hand on Carlos's chest. No, TK, I messed up, Carlos said as he sat up and leaned against the backboard of the bed. I was just so caught up with all that happened, and I've forgotten to consider how you feel. What you must have gone through when you see me get shot right in front of your eyes, at the place we were supposed to have our wedding. TK, I'm so sorry. It must have been horrifying, Carlos said as he held on to TK's hands. It was, babe. I was overwhelmed with the fear of losing you, and then losing myself. But a part of me knew you were always gonna be alright. You're a raging bull, Carlos, and you won't let anything get in your way of coming home to me, TK said, tapping his index finger on Carlos's nose. Not raging, Carlos said, and they both let out a laugh. Carlos rubbed his thumbs on TK's face and kissed him on the lips. Baby, I'm sorry for what I said. I just didn't want you to get hurt because of me. I guess I just love you too much, too. Will you forgive me? You don't have to apologize because I'm sorry too. I should have never walked out on you, TK said, holding on to Carlos's hand and rubbing his face. But I'm not sorry for loving you too much. Babe, TK said, I have some bad news. TK sighed, pulling Carlos's hand down onto his lap. I spoke to the wedding planners again, and they stood their ground, and they're not gonna refund or postpone it because we missed our wedding. It's okay. I guess we'll just have to scale down our wedding plans and find somewhere else, Carlos said. Babe, it wouldn't be the same. It wouldn't be the way you planned it, the way we wanted it. TK gripped both of Carlos's hands tightly. Baby, listen. We don't need a big wedding to declare ourselves as husbands. We can do it in your dad's backyard or right here in the loft. It doesn't matter, because as long as we get to spend the rest of our lives together, it's all that matters, Carlos said. Okay, babe. As long as I get to spend every moment with you. TK nodded. I love you, babe. The next morning, TK woke up to Carlos making breakfast in the kitchen. He walked over and gave Carlos a kiss on his cheek and greeted him good morning. Morning, babe. Smells good. What are you cooking? Bacon omelette, your favorite, Carlos said with a smile as he sprinkled some spring onions into the pan. As soon as he was done, he laid 2 servings on the dining table where TK was drinking a glass of milk. He watched as TK dug in and enjoyed the omelette. How is it? Carlos asked. I'm just so blessed that I'm gonna marry a great cook, TK chuckled as he continued filling his mouth with delicious omelette. Carlos didn't touch the food that was on his own plate. He wanted to ask TK for permission for something that he might not agree to, so he waited patiently for TK to finish his food before popping the question to not spoil his appetite. Babe, I wanna ask you for your permission to do something, Carlos said as soon as TK swallowed the last of his omelette. Something that you might not agree to. What is it, babe? TK said as he put down his utensils and wiped his mouth with the back of his hand. The APD kept me and my dad out of the loop on the shooting case, but Donnie and I made great progress and we're thinking of doing it on our own, Carlos said. Carlos, you want to put yourself out there with no backup when you're still recovering from surgery and going against the orders of your dad to stay home, TK said with a face of disapproval. Dad texted you? Carlos frowned. Yes, and he warned me that you might go out there with Donnie to try crack the case yourselves, TK said. I was just asking. I'm not gonna leave the house. Don't worry about it. I'll tell Donnie to drop the case. Carlos tried to fake a smile when he said that, looking down to see his plate of untouched omelette. TK knows when Carlos is lying, but this time it was different. Carlos was genuinely sad and truthful when he said that he'll drop the case. TK knows how much solving the case would mean to Carlos, bringing closure to the cancelled wedding, taking a step closer to his promotion and finding his self-worth in the APD. Babe, TK said, lifting Carlos's chin up with his clean hand. I didn't say I'm not gonna let you do it. I know how much this means to you. Really? But TK, if you're not okay with that, Carlos, TK interrupted Carlos in the middle of his sentence. I made a promise that I'll come home to you every day, no matter what. I want you to do the same for me. Promise me, TK said, holding on to Carlos's face. I promise. And I promise I'll be careful, Carlos said, turning his face to kiss TK's clean hand. The evening came around. Carlos and TK hopped into Carlos's blue Chevrolet Camaro and headed to the 126 Firehouse. They talked about a plan to have their honeymoon in Hawaii after their wedding. TK was really excited throughout the drive to the Firehouse. He had watched hours and hours of Hawaii travel vlogs, and the beautiful island made it to the bucket list of the things he wishes to do with Carlos as a married couple. TK unbuckled his seatbelt as soon as they pulled up to the Firehouse. He leaned to Carlos and held onto his face and kissed him on the lips. Come home safe, Carlos. If anything goes south, call me and I'll be right there, TK said. Okay, I love you, Carlos said, giving TK another kiss. I love you more, TK said as he stepped out of the car and closed the door. Carlos watched as TK walked into the Firehouse. Hey Carlos, come by for dinner. Carlos waved back when Mateo and Marjan waved to him from a distance. After sending TK to the Firehouse, Carlos headed over to Donnie's place to pick him up. As Carlos pulled up in front of Donnie's house, Donnie stepped out of the front door and circled the car before getting on.
Sweet ride, Carlos,
Donnie said as he closed the door and fastened his seatbelt.
How fast does this thing go?
Let's hope we'll never have to find out, Carlos said as he accelerated the car gently.
So, what's the plan?
Remember the hideout we found last night? We're gonna camp right outside and see if we can catch Jonathan there with his crew.
Ooh, a stakeout. Exciting,
Donnie said, tapping the tip of his fingers against one another. But first, we gotta make a stop at the station. There's something I need.
Level 3.
Donnie waited in the car while Carlos made his way to his desk in the station. He stared at his favorite pen for a moment before picking it up and sliding it into the pocket of his jeans. "Officer Reyes," Captain Nelson said, catching Carlos off guard. "Captain," Carlos said with a nervous voice, worried that the captain was aware that he was trying to solve the case on his own. "You're on medical leave. What are you doing here?" Captain Nelson said with a frown, feeling suspicious of Carlos. "Just came back to get some stuff," Carlos said with a shaky voice. "Okay. Anyway, I just want to let you know that we're still working on the case and I think we're getting close. Call me if you remember or find anything. Don't go out there solving this by yourself. You got it?" Captain Nelson said with a serious tone. "Yes, Captain," Carlos said. "Good. Go home and lock your doors, Reyes. I'll see you back here next week," Captain Nelson said. Carlos let out a sigh of relief when the captain left his line of sight.
You have arrived at your destination.
The GPS chimed as the car came to a stop. It was about a 30-minute drive and they found themselves parked in front of the open gates of an abandoned warehouse. The windows were lit and the exterior floodlights lit up the area around the warehouse. "You sure this is the right place?" Carlos shut the engine and ducked his head to have a clearer view of the large warehouse in front of them.
Yeah. My buddies from the cyber department in the NYPD pinged Jonathan's last Facebook and Twitter post to this location. I'm sure of it, man.
Donnie said confidently. "Look, a white Honda Civic. This must be it," Carlos said, pointing at the familiar parked car by the door of the warehouse.
So, are we calling it in?
Donnie said. "No, let's have a visual confirmation of Jonathan before we do that. So now, we wait," Carlos said as he unfastened his seatbelt and adjusted his seat to recline slightly. The silence was killing Donnie. He was always the talkative guy that was well loved by his buddies back in the NYPD. He scanned through a list of topics in his head before he decided to ask about Carlos's plans for doing another wedding with TK.
So, Carlos, you and TK planning to make up for that wedding?
Donnie asked. "We haven't really decided yet. We couldn't postpone or get a refund, so we're thinking of scaling down the wedding this time. Probably just gonna have it in the loft. Or maybe we're not gonna have one at all. I don't know." Carlos tried to fake a smile, but the sad tone of his voice shattered Donnie's heart again. Donnie recalled his time in New York when things didn't work out with his romantic partner. Donnie had a family emergency which depleted his savings. Therefore, he couldn't afford the wedding that his fiancée wanted. He eventually left his job at a restaurant to join the NYPD for a more stable career and tried as hard as he could to build his savings again, but his fiancée couldn't wait and moved on with someone new. After his graduation, Donnie requested for a transfer to get away from the pain that he went through and found himself a chance to get a fresh start right here in Austin, bringing him to this very moment, witnessing somebody else who isn't going to get the wedding that they deserve. Donnie didn't know the right words to say because he knew how difficult it must have been for the couple, especially for Carlos after he got shot.
Hey man, I'm really sorry to hear that. If there's anything I could do to help, just ask.
As soon as Donnie finished his sentence, the floodlights illuminating the exterior of the warehouse turned off, and it was a total blackout within the warehouse. Carlos and Donnie were shocked. They sat upright in their seats and looked around for any signs of movement around the warehouse. They know we're here, Carlos whispered as his eyes continued to scan for any signs of life. And you made it through episode 3! We're gonna get a ton of action for episode 4, so stick around to the end to get a sneak preview. Before we get there, I just want to take the opportunity to thank everyone for listening and following my audio fanfic. I've been reading every single one of your comments on YouTube and Twitter, and I can't tell you how happy it made me feel to see how you guys became so invested in the story. I've been juggling work, music, social life, and mental health, so I apologize that the next few episodes are gonna take a while to come up here on YouTube, but I promise it'll be a very satisfying journey till the end when we finally get the full uninterrupted Tarlos wedding. I've worked really hard for this series and I really can't wait to get everything up here on YouTube to share it with everyone. Special shout out to the people on the screen who gave me so much support. Thank you so much for being by my side and just being awesome. A little wishful thinking, but I sure do hope Ronan or Rafa would someday come across this audio fanfic, and I would really love to see their reactions. Anyway, Fox Studios, if you're seeing this, call me anytime. Do connect with me on Twitter at Spaces and Shadows. I'll love to talk anything about 911 and 911 Lone Star and answer all of your questions about my audio fanfic. I love you guys, stay safe and be kind to one another. Enjoy the sneak peek and I'll see you guys soon.
And now, a preview for the next episode of 911 Lone Star by Spaces and Shadows.
This is 363H20. Officer Reyes, I'm in pursuit of a possible armed suspect driving a white Honda Civic, traveling west on Howard Lane.
Copy that, Officer Reyes. Units are 5 minutes out. Proceed with caution.
Buckle up. It's only gonna get worse from here. Jonathan, put down your weapon. Let's talk.
You should have been dead when I shot you. But I'm gonna make sure that you stay dead this time. And then I'll aim for your fiancé next! It's over, Carlos. I'll say a goodbyes to your fiancé.
All new episode, coming soon, only on YouTube.